preseason games, we're all trying to figure out how teams are going to stagger their starters and all those things. I assume there's some master plan there. Is it you want to see X amount of plays from everybody, or what is it?
Well, I think each team kind of goes by a little bit differently, and Coach Zim is, going through it week by week. What's the best way for us to do it for our staff? I know for a fact, week one in the preseason, you're trying to evaluate as many players as you can and get as many of them to play, so you can figure out who has an opportunity to be a part of the team and who can help us in a variety of different ways. So that's the most important thing you're trying to do in week one of the preseason.
Andre, obviously starters didn't play Saturday, but what's kind of your level of concern after what happened on your second unit defense and your depth of defense?
Well, I wouldn't use the word concern. We got members to preseason, right? So, those guys had a tremendous opportunity. I was excited that they got a chance to go against Denver's one offense because we had some great tape to come back and look and evaluate to see how guys can play against high-level people. In practice for 2 days, it was our ones versus their ones, our twos versus their twos, our threes versus their threes, and we had a good week defensively. But what ends up happening, like we all know in the NFL, injuries occur, and guys can't play for a certain reason. And you get a chance to see, what a guy can do against a starting player in this league, where you're trying to, guess whether he can handle that or not. And I thought those guys had a tremendous opportunity in order to play against Denver's ones, and some guys stood up to the challenge and some guys didn't, and that's a good thing for us as coaches to be able to see at this point in the season.
You get more of the Denver scrimmage or the game on Saturday?
As far as looking at who can be quality backup players for us, I got more out of the game because our guys got a chance to go against, really almost for 2.5 quarters, go up against their first group. And it was good evaluation from all three levels of our defense to be able to see who were able to handle that and what a guy's got to do to improve for when that opportunity comes his way again. So to me, I thought it was a good evaluation tool.
How do you feel about how some of the different pass rushers did against Denver's offense?
Well, I know DJ had, one time when he hit the quarterback, and there was another time Steven got close. Because of the way the game played out, we didn't really have a lot of opportunities to pin our ears back and go. Like the deep ball that was thrown early, that was pretty much an 8-man protection. They kept everybody in the block four, so that makes it difficult. But the way the game played out, we really didn't get those opportunities to really evaluate them the way I would have liked to. If it would have been, the roles would have been flipped. If we would have been ahead and they had to throw the ball, I'd have been able to get some good evaluation done that way. But they ran the ball, and we were able to get some good evaluation of all three levels of our defense of how guys can handle it.
Andre, why was Weatherly the only guy listed as first on the depth chart who played Saturday, and then how do you size up the competition potentially between Weatherly and Wanham for maybe that other starting spot?
Well, he played because there's a competition in it, right? There's a competition between him and DJ to see who's going to be the other starting in. And so, to be fair, they both have to play. I didn't think it was fair for Steven not to play and for DJ to play. So that's why I made the decision that they both would play. They both played the same amount of reps. They both did some good. They both did some bad. And, the evaluation continues through the next preseason game.
Andre, DJ improved since last year, DJ.
I think he's much more comfortable. I think you're able to see his athleticism flash, even more than it did a year ago. He did a great job in the offseason getting himself stronger and more flexible. I think those things have shown a lot through camp.
Hey, Andre, week one's about the depth. Does week two become a little more about the starters and trying to get them some looks here in the preseason?
Well, I think there's something that we're going to talk about as a coaching staff as the week goes on. What Coach Zim wants to do, how much those guys play or not play. So we haven't gotten to that point yet. So, but that'll come down to what Coach Zim feels.
But considering you haven't seen with Pierce, Thomas, and just this whole group together, personally, do you want to see them at least a little bit in this game?
I just want what's best for the team. To me, it's different. Those guys have played in NFL games. You know, I mean, Dalvin has started a ton of games in this league. Mike has started a ton of games in this league. They play an NFL game, so you know what you're getting from those guys. So I don't have that concern with those two big guys in the middle, or either Sheldon. I mean, those guys have played in a ton of NFL games. It's not new for them. You know, I mean, you can see with some of the rookies, they were wide-eyed on the sideline, and you can tell it was their first experience, right? But with those guys, it's not. And so you got to be smart as a coach and do the right thing to make sure you keep those kind of guys out of harm's way, because when the bullets start flying for real, we need those guys on the field.
Andre, when you see missed tackles on tape, how do you go about correcting that when you can't really tackle, in a practice setting?
Well, we still got to work on, breaking down, drills we can do in practice and breaking down at the right time, coming under control, keeping our hips down, wrapping up, going through the tackle, all the things that you do. And they'll be better at it on Saturday than they were last Saturday, because they got to get some live tackling in.
How do you size up competition for some of those backup safety spots? I mean, you got a lot of guys there, Cam, Miles, Josh, Luther. How do you kind of size out those guys?
Well, I think, all of them have to continue to improve. Nobody stepped forward from that group from Saturday. And hopefully they'll improve this week and step forward, this week. And that's the good thing of having 3 preseason games like we didn't have last year. And, you go through your first experience and the nerves kick in, and you hit the field, and all the things that you've learned kind of go to the wayside, because you think about, I got to go make a play, right? Instead of focusing in on the technique and fundamentals that you've learned out here. It's like I told the defense today, there was a lot of things on tape that we saw in the game on Saturday that we have not seen out here on the practice field. Okay, and the reason why is because they didn't bring their armor with them, and their armor is their technique and fundamentals. That's what helps them become great players. So when I go on the field and my thought process becomes it's all about me making plays, and I forget about the technique and fundamentals, then bad things happen. And so they have to learn that, and that's why I want to make sure that I express that to them today.
Andre, with Dalvin coming from a 3-4 and being an interior guy, what I guess are his biggest responsibilities that change from what he was doing in New York to what you're having to do here?
There's not a lot really, Courtney, because he played 3 technique there too. He's been through a couple of different coordinators while he was with New York, and so at one point of his career he was a starting 3 technique. Then they changed the defense and he became the starting nose, and then they changed the defense and they went to a 4-3 and he was playing a 3-4. He was playing 4-eye. Then he became the 0 nose. So, and that was part of the evaluation process during free agency, where I went back and watched him play all through those years. So really, it's not that big of a change for him because he's played 3 technique before in his career.
How did Jones and Robinson do? Were they wide-eyed, or did they handle that all right?
No, they were wide-eyed. You come in our place and there's fans in there and they're yelling and screaming, and it's going to do it to anybody. It's just being a human. But, you did see Pat Flash. He made some plays in the backfield. Matter of fact, he could have had 4 if he'd have ran the call. There was 3 times he didn't run the defense, and if he'd have ran the defense, he'd have had 3 more tackles for losses. But you saw him flash some quickness. You saw him flash some strength at the line of scrimmage. So he did some good things in the game, but he made some bonehead mistakes too. And Janarius, same thing. You saw him flash in the backfield sometimes too. But again, those guys have to continue to improve.
Is there stuff that you work on with young players, like young defensive ends on 3rd down, when you're hearing that much crowd noise? When, I don't know, Rodgers always uses that hard count. Like, is there stuff that you have to give, like a technique that they have to learn early on so they don't jump off sides?
Mm-hmm. Don't listen to the quarterback. And to be honest with you, Corey, that's kind of one of the hardest things I have to break D linemen of, because whether it was high school or college or some pro coaches teach those guys to listen to the quarterback to get a jump on the snap, okay? But in actuality, they're setting themselves up for failure. You're not in the huddle. You don't know the snap count. So how in the world can you get a jump on something you don't know? And so that's where the quarterback uses it to our disadvantage. So I preach all the time, don't listen to the quarterback. The reason we jumped off sides 3 times on Saturday wasn't because of hard count. Not one of those were hard count. It's because they were going on silent count, and the center was bobbing his head. That's why we jumped off. You know, they're seeing the center's head bob up and down, and from the outside, it looks like the ball's moving, so we jumped off sides. Well, I got to work on that in practice, silent count, and the center's head bobbing. But, you know, I preach all the time, don't listen to the quarterback because you're just fooling yourself. You don't know the snap count. You're not in the huddle.
Andre, there's some guys that you can't break it at. Just twitching.
No, I've never had a guy that I couldn't break of it. You know, Everson every now and then would get anxious, but the thing with Everson was he wasn't jumping off because of the hard count. He was jumping off because he was so reared up, ready to go. So with him, it was more about me getting him to breathe. It really wasn't the quarterback making him jump off sides. It's just him, in a cannon ready to explode to come out and to get him to breathe and relax. So, in a high pressure situation, when he felt like, I had to get a good get off to go sack the quarterback, those times would come. But I've never had a guy that I had a hard time breaking of that.
So Andre, then does the cue become watching the ball or watching the line move? What is
The ball in your man. I got to be able to see the ball out the corner of my eye and my man. And when those things move, I'm a hair trigger and I go. But it's never about the quarterback's cadence.